All right, so if you guys didn't know, I have been doing a kinesiology degree and I'm about 6 weeks away from graduating. So I just wanted to make a little video series sharing some of the big takeaways that will help you with your training and making your own plans and just to help you understand a little bit more about what's going on and what we need to do with our training. So, first one I want to talk about is exercise selection and how we can break it down and simplify it to make our lives a little bit easier and understand what the hell is going on and not be overwhelmed by the huge amount of stuff going on with social media and tons of different exercises we're seeing all over the place. First thing we need to do is break down our body parts or our body parts really. So we've got upper body, lower body, and trunk. So when it comes to upper body, we've really got two options. We can push and we can pull. And then we can go overhead, so vertical, or we can go horizontal. We can pull in towards us or push in front of us. Yeah, these are gonna be things like our overhead pressing, lat pull downs, pull ups, chin ups, all that stuff would count as vertical pushing and pulling. When it comes to horizontal pushing and pulling, we can do things like bench press, dumbbell rows, table rows, row machines, and then we can kind of go in between. So we could go for like incline, stuff like that. But you really only have the two options, push or pull, and then I guess you have four because you can go vertical and horizontal. All right, so then when it comes to the lower body, it's very similar. You've got push and you've got pull. So you can squat, you can hinge, but there's kind of a third option. So you've got your hamstring muscles that cross over your knee, and to work those, you need to flex from the knee. So these are like our Nordic hamstring curls, any kind of hamstring curl exercise is gonna fall into that category. And the reason we need to do those is because if we just do things like hip hinging, like our RDLs, we're not gonna work that lower part of the hamstring or we're not gonna get hamstring strength in that way. And this can kind of put us at risk for things like knee injuries or like lower hamstring pulls. So we wanna be strong in all aspects of that hamstring. Yeah, and then with the lower body, we can also go unilateral or bilateral. So we can do things like our barbell back squat, front squat, and then we can go unilateral and do things like our lunges or split squats. And then same thing for the deadlifts. We could do just a normal deadlift or RDL. And then we could do stuff like split stance, deadlift, RDL. So we can really break it down. You could do the same with the upper body too. So you could do like a landmine press to get some unilateral strength. Or you could do like a Viking press or like just an overhead press with two dumbbells to do that. And then finally, we've got our trunk. And there's really only six options. You can rotate, you can flex, and you can extend. So you can either create the movement with the trunk, so you can create rotation, you can create flexion, you can create extension, or you can resist it. So you can resist rotation, you can resist flexion and extension. And with that being said, a lot of these movements, a lot of that anti-flexion and extension and even rotation are kind of built in to our exercises, especially if we're going unilateral. So let's say we're doing a dumbbell row. There's gonna be some anti-rotation to that naturally. If we're doing a heavy squat, there's gonna be some anti-flexion and extension built into that. Okay, so now that we know all the different movements we can do, how do we decide which exercise and which variation we're gonna pick? It's really up to you. So certain exercises are gonna be more fatiguing than others because there's just more total load. So it's just gonna be more tiring for the nervous system. It's gonna load your spine more. It might just be, and vice versa. So that's really up to you to decide. Like I probably wouldn't do a super heavy squat and a super heavy hinge in the same day. And you could follow the same rule for upper body, although upper body, it's gonna be a little bit different because it's just less weight and it's gonna be just less fatiguing overall. But I probably wouldn't do bench press, overhead press, weighted pull-ups, and heavy bent over rows because it's just gonna be a little bit too much. So how I like to do it is I break it up. I either pick a heavy hinge, like a deadlift, or maybe even an RDL, and then I'll pick a lighter, less fatiguing upper body exercise, or not upper body, squatty exercise. So this might be something like a split squat. Or if I did a deadlift, maybe I'll do a front squat. So I really like to pair my fatiguing exercises up. Or if I did an RDL, I could maybe do a back squat, just pairing things up, just based on where you're at. So I wouldn't want to do heavy deadlift, heavy back squat on the same day. You're going to be cooked. You're going to be absolutely cooked, and your risk of injury is going to go up. So I want to pair up intensities. So if we're doing upper body, I might want to do a bench press and a single arm row, or a lat pull down, or something like that that's going to be a little bit less generally fatiguing then. When it comes to core, we just need to look at our lifestyle, if we're doing any extra sports, and then like how much heavy lifting we're doing. So if I'm doing a lot of heavy lifting, maybe I'm hitting that anti-extension and anti-flexion, but maybe I'm not getting a lot of rotation in my life. So I need to do some cable choppers, some cable chops, maybe some med ball throws to get some rotation through my spine, learning how to create rotation. Yeah. And then we can also just look at limiting factors. So if I'm trying to get my squat up, but I notice that every time I go down, I kind of fold over, well, that's a clue. Then I need to work on my back extensors a little bit, maybe do some more posterior chain work, maybe isolated back extension stuff, or maybe just I'm not doing enough post chain work like RDLs and deadlifts and stuff like that. So I can't maintain this upright posture, or vice versa. If I'm doing deadlifts, yeah. So that can give us kind of some clues on what we need to work on, or if I feel like my core is giving out every time, then I might need to do some extra core work. But if not, then I'm probably good, and I just need to maybe get a couple sets in the warm-ups or in the accessories, but I don't need to go overkill. Yeah, and then when it comes to things like hitting our arms, so bis and tris, or forearms, or our calf muscles, we need to look at the demands of what we're doing. So if we're just a general human being, yeah, we might want to throw some arms in at the end of our upper body days. And we might want to throw some calves in, seated calf raises, straight leg calf raises at the end of our lower body days. Maybe just do a few sets here and there. Hopefully this kind of just helps you pick exercises. And then one thing to be said is we don't want to switch exercises every time. So yeah, we want to stick with our exercises for anywhere from 4, I would say, up to 8 weeks. And then, or maybe even longer if we're still seeing improvement. But we want to get, if we're looking to get stronger, we're looking to put muscle on, we want to do what's called progressive overload. So we want to be able to progress the exercise either in reps, weight, or sets, kind of each week or each session. And we can't do that if we're just throwing different things at our body every single session, every single week is just a different show. So we want to be a little bit consistent for a little bit. Things that we could kind of vary, I would say, are those accessories. So we could just have, hey, I need to hit a bicep and a tricep exercise at the end of my upper body day. And that's great, right? Or core, I would say you could also kind of switch up a little bit, unless it's like a super weak part and you need that super specific progressive overload. But if you're just looking to get some rotation in to stay healthy, you could totally switch those exercises up to keep it interesting. All right, so that's kind of it for this exercise selection made easier. It's kind of the backbone of picking exercises. In the future, I think I'm going to make another video on things like why we might pick different exercises. I'll go into more detail on why we might pick certain lifts to kind of dictate intensity or for certain goals. I think I'll also make a video on progressive overload because that is also a pretty big backbone to seeing improvement in the gym. And if we're missing that principle, then we're kind of screwed. Stay tuned for some more videos based on what I've learned in the past 5 years doing my kinesiology degree. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, if this helped you or you learned something, drop a like, drop a sub. Let's get it going.